So the new Mortal Kombat just recently dropped, and I feel like honestly, for the most part, me and Austin were what's the word I'm looking for, Austin? I don't want to say excited, but like
Willing to spend money.
basically, it's the game that caught our eye that has been coming out and coming out soon, other than like Payday 3, that caught our eye. And so we decided that we were gonna sit there and play it together. And today we are basically just gonna run through our personal opinions and I don't know if I'd necessarily review, but also kind of yeah, we're gonna review it.
It's a
Um,
retrospective, just not with the retro part.
Basically, and we've kind of got a layout for it and what we kind of want our like to express and how we feel about it and stuff. So I feel like for Mortal Kombat, um, me and you have both been like we've talked a lot about Mortal Kombat, especially the PlayStation 2 games. Me and you kind of go for that. So the story throughout those has been like pretty interesting to us. The Mortal Kombat 9, 10, and 11. I don't think either of us have any on our channels of us actually playing, but
No.
we talk about it a lot and talk about the story a lot. And so I feel like that's kind of where we got to start off with for Mortal Kombat 1. We can take it away, Austin. Start us off.
Story mode.
Right, so the story of Mortal Kombat 1 opens up pretty much following the Aftermath DLC of Mortal Kombat 11. So we're in Liu Kang's new era now. Aftermath left us off with the Great Kung Lao. We time skip to modern day, so we're ignoring that basically. And now we have basically the plot of Mortal Kombat 1 happening, but just slightly different context. Instead, Liu Kang's the god and Raiden's the champion. And a little bit of the backstory's been changed for all the characters, essentially. I mean, Kung Lao's pretty much the same, but in the first section, he's really the only character that's the same.
Yeah, I really agree. Like I feel like for the new era of Liu Kang, he sat there and actually like he made it to where a lot of the people that he knew and was actually close to weren't so dickish to a way, especially with certain characters. One of the first people we meet is Johnny Cage, and throughout the story, he doesn't seem as cocky and like dickish to people as in the older games. But basically, you start off with meeting these main characters for Earthrealm, and so I feel like the main ones that you got that are going to be fighting for Earthrealm are Raiden, Johnny Cage, Kung Lao, and Kenshi, and Fire God Liu Kang is trying to sit there and decide who is going to fight uh, for the tournament.
Yep.
And as we figured out, it's Raiden, as we talked about, and so you get to the part where you play as Raiden and go to Outworld to compete in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, so the whole first section is literally just centered around the tournament that's the equivalent of Mortal Kombat 1, where it's Earthrealm versus Outworld. Slight twist, though, is that the tournament is completely structured differently now. So now the tournament, instead of being like a bracket style, it is offense versus defense, which it's been like that before, but the defenders get an entire team, whereas the offense has to select a single champion and see how far they can get. And I feel like this kind of fixes an issue that Mortal Kombat 9 had with its tournament structure of some characters fought and then never fought again. And this kind of makes it to where, since Raiden is our champion and he is also the final character for that section of the game, his chapter makes sense that it's just him back to back fighting instead of like jumping around and kind of having to fill in the dots with other characters, because it's like, well, we know that Raiden would have to be fighting constantly during that section. So I feel like that kind of fixes the chapter issue.
Yeah. I mean, so one thing I think we would agree on is the fact that we're gonna kind of break it down into 3 sections. That's gonna be our tournament section right there. After Raiden wins that the tournament, the Mortal Kombat tournament at the very beginning, it is kind of back to Outworld and Earthrealm being basically at peace. Like, obviously there's some people in Outworld that hate the Earthrealm people, but like for the most part, it's just a mutual relationship.
Yeah, there's a general peace between the two sides. We even get to see more of the culture of Outworld during the tournament section, nice. Including multiple races. We get to see the centaurs and all of them come back. We even get to see a brand new race of 6-armed creatures that we've never seen before in the series. Pretty cool. Tarkatans are not around though.
It is now a disease.
Yeah, and we'll see that in the once we get to the second section of the story, which is all about basically a secret covert mission happening in Outworld, with our main Earthrealm heroes minus Raiden. They're all going after Shang Tsung because he's starting to corrupt this new timeline.
See, like, I really like this part because, like, so whenever this happens, they're going to sit there and get Shang Tsung, and they run into a Tarkatan camp where Shang Tsung is trying to experiment on them, where they meet Baraka, and I don't know if I would say the first time, but like, this is like a part where Baraka like appears, and he's not like a bad person. Like, he's seen as a character that people would actually like to see. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like,
I feel like they really flesh out Baraka's character a lot more, and for the first time he actually gets his own playable chapter, because before he's really just been more of a side character, which he was really only in, at least the NetherRealm era, he was only in 9, and 11, and in 11 he was very much a jobber, and didn't get anything at all to do. He was literally just there to be a punching bag for a couple chapters, and then he was gone. I really like how they flesh out Baraka, make him a good guy. They changed the Tarkatans, which I'm kind of iffy on the whole Tarkat disease.
It's weird. It's really weird to see.
I don't really know how much it really does for the story, to be honest. It makes Baraka a much more likable character, and it makes Melina a much more likable character. Generally speaking, I feel like you lose a bit of the lore because you're deleting an entire race from Outworld's category.
And like, it's also kind of weird because like they explain how like kind of why Tarkat is like pushed out away. It's because like once they reach a certain like point of having the disease, it like drives them basically insane, and they start going for like blood. And like Baraka's literally like, yeah, like there's gonna be a point where I'm gonna like lose my mind basically and start going for blood.
Yeah, whereas before it was more of like they were just a race from Outworld, most likely from the Badlands, that kind of just got absorbed into Outworld, either during Onaga or Shao Kahn's conquests, and just kind of were under the heel of the Emperor. And Baraka was just kind of a leader of that tribe.
And it's really cool because they kind of like, even though it's no longer really a race, they still kind of focus a good bit on these people and Tarkat compared to just being like, yeah, it's a race. Okay, there you go. Like, these are they're here. Like, cool.
Mason, what do you mean these people?
That is messed up. So he's experimenting on the Tarkatans because of Melina. He's trying to make it to where the where Melina does not get Tarkov. And so the Earthrealm heroes think that Shang Tsung is trying to like not help her. And so they stop him from giving her basically like, I want to say it's a cure, but like they just make it to where she doesn't turn to where she's fully got Tarkov. And so when this happens, it makes it seem like the Earthrealmers are plotting against Outworld because Shang Tsung was trying to help her. And it's kind of a lucky draw for Shang Tsung because like this is completely luck of this seeming this and not Shang Tsung looking like a piece of shit. Like straight up, he even is like he admits that he's like, yeah, that was pretty lucky of me to you know, they fuck me like that. But for some reason, Liu Kang's looking for me, and it turns out, you know, Shang Tsung, Shao Kahn, Quan Chi, and I think they mentioned Rain at that point. They mentioned somebody else are like plotting to make it to where Earthrealm and
I mean, yeah, Rain was there. He was in the scene.
I don't remember if he was like actually like they were like, yeah, he's with us.
Yeah,
I knew he was there with
yeah, and then he's with
Tanya.
them later. Tanya's there,
with
but she's
Tanya.
not a betrayer.
Yeah, exactly.
But
like,
yeah, Rain is a betrayer.
But they kind of like talk about it, and it sets it up perfectly for their plan to kind of set in motion of Earthrealm and Outworld going back up to like actually being in battle and stuff. How usually in other games Shao Kahn wants it to be, basically. And so after that like happens, Kenshi loses his eyes. Not really too crazy important. We all knew it was gonna happen. But our people get captured, and that's where we pick up with Baraka and his stuff. So you can go ahead and talk about that, Austin.
The only thing that I was gonna bring up was that Baraka's chapter uses generic enemies, which is, I think, works really well in the game's favor. They do it also during Johnny Cage's chapter, where we get to see a generic type enemies face off. So that way it doesn't really affect the actual character's sort of win-loss within the canon. So that way it's not like this character's just a punching bag. Because we get to see more generic enemies get used as filler, since they still use the chapter system in this game, where each character gets at least 4 fights during their chapter.
And I don't think we've publicly said this, and so I think it's a good time to say this. And you can fix me if I'm wrong. Austin does not care for the chapter system because, like, canon-wise, it makes it to where some characters are stronger or weaker.
Yeah, it kind
stuff
of
like that.
It traps the game, because then it's like chapter 1 is Kung Lao. So we're obviously never going to see Kung Lao do anything extraordinary after his chapter's over. So for the rest of the game, if Kung Lao's in scene, he's going to just be a background character, and he'll never be useful again.
Yeah, to a fair point. Unless he like does something, and even then, it's probably not gonna be something too crazy because they want like the crazier stuff going to the player.
Yeah, and a lot of characters just never get a chapter. So kind of missed opportunity, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
Because then we never get to see Smoke, we never get Havoc, Nitara. Like, these characters just never get their own section to shine, so they're literally just jobbers or characters just to lose, to beef up the win-loss of other characters. So I think them using generic enemies is very nice. We also get to see the use of Test Your Might a couple times during this segment.
Oh, true. I did forget about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So they do use that. So it kind of, that's sort of a mini mechanic that's brought in, kind of like quick time events during X, or like the mini games in Injustice. It's sort of our small thing between fights to kind of break up the monotony of just constant fights back and forth.
And if you really want to, you can turn it off. But like, it's a cool
Can
little.
you turn it off?
Yeah, there's a way to turn it off. It's kind of.
Oh, that's cool.
It's not really like cool, but also like it is kind of cool. Like, 'cause for people that really don't care for it, they can just turn it off. But it's a small little like thing in the game that makes it a little bit somewhat different and stuff. So you're not constantly just fighting and watching a story and then fighting and then and so.
Yeah, it's
But-
cool that they're making a lot of the lesser characters kind of brought more into the action. So
Yeah.
Baraka gets a chapter, Reptile. Like, these characters always are just kind of jobbers, they don't get to do anything, and now they kind of get their time to shine.
Yep.
Ashura coming back.
Like Ashra, yeah, which is literally right after Baraka.
Yeah, a character I was
they-
super hyped for, coming in from the Deception Armageddon era.
Yeah,
One of my
absolutely. I haven't
favorites
seen
from
her in
back
a
in the
while.
day. It does kind of suck that there's not really a classic costume for her or any of the other characters.
The all white, it looks so nice.
Like, there's just no classic costumes for any of the characters, which I feel is just a missed opportunity. Another thing is that, backing it up a little bit, Kenshi's chapter. I think that Kenshi's chapter is a huge missed opportunity because we get Kenshi before he's blinded, so he's
True,
missing.
He's not that powerful.
He's missing most of his moves. I would say he's missing probably 70% of his moves.
That's kind of the same though with Kung
Same with
Lao.
Raiden. He's also missing
Not-
most of his moves until he actually begins the tournament, 'cause his is a split chapter. So for the first half, he has no electric abilities. Chapter 1, Kung Lao does not have the Razor Hat, so he's missing all of the abilities related to that. So it's nice because we get to see the characters develop, but it kind of sucks because while you're playing as them, you're not getting the full experience of the character.
I feel like even in that situation, like the characters still like it shows how like good they are. Like it kind of sucks because like it's a cool feature for the fact that you're getting to play as these characters and it's like they're actually progressing. Like we don't really get to see it
with
Kenshi
Raiden, it's cool,
and Liu
but
Kang or Kung Lao.
Kenshi and Kung Lao, it's an issue because you play as their weakened version, and then during Ashura's
That's it.
chapter, you get to see Kenshi power up, but then you don't actually get to play as Kenshi
is
with his
true.
telekinesis. And I will say I really loved how they did the telekinesis, because in the original 3D era, Kenshi got his telekinesis from Ermac. Ermac taught it to him. And in this one, they make it to where Kenshi gets his telekinesis from attacking Ermac and having Sento absorb some of its power.
Yeah,
from
it still
Ken-
kind of
from
like
Ermac.
follows.
So it's the
And
same sort of
this-
thing
this
where
all
he gets
falls
it
in
from
Ashura's.
Ermac.
This all falls in Ashura's chapter, by the way. Ermac appears, Quan Chi,
Yeah, we'll come back to them.
Kenshi. I would say we're definitely going to talk about those two a lot. But one thing I want to talk about with Ermac right now is so whenever they beat Ermac the first time, there's the faint voice that you hear, and it's like Sindel, I miss you, some crap like that. And later on in the story, we'll reveal it. It plays a major part, and it's pretty interesting at this time, seeing this happen and stuff. But for the most part, there isn't too much happening in this chapter, or I would really not even say Reptiles chapter, to be honest. Like, they're kind of just destroying the soul towers. That's really it. But once
Yeah,
we
I
get
mean, yeah, everything's pretty much basic. I mean, you kind of that leads. They just go back to Earthrealm, and then that section just ends off. It is cool they finally confirmed the theory going on about what was going on with Ermac, and that King Jared is there later on.
yeah, that's
Because
literally
that's
it shows
how the
that.
next section opens up, is us coming to that revelation. Because we get to see the fact that Bihan is still an ass in this new era.
Yeah,
He is still an
straight
ass.
up. And Scorpion, who is now what is it, Kuai Liang? Yeah,
Kuai
what is his
Liang.
name? Kuai Liang, yeah, is now Scorpion and no longer Hanzo Hazashi.
Yeah, which
Scorpion and
I
Sub-Zero are
don't like.
brothers.
Don't like it.
it's weird. It's really weird. I wouldn't say I dislike it. I would say it's like a weird thing because I think writing is a lot better than Beyond, but it's just weird seeing them like that. And there's still like a Scorpion Sub-Zero rivalry that ends up happening, and it's so cool because Smoke and this time now Scorpion have that same like brotherly friendship that they had in like we kind of saw it in 9 and stuff.
Yeah, generally I
But
would say that having Kuai Liang be Scorpion, it's a cool idea, but I would say generally speaking, it hurts the story because
weird.
they're basically trying to get Bihan and Kuai Liang to be unique characters, but also have them active at the same time together. I feel like
It's
at that
just
point you
very
probably could have
weird.
just had they could have just had Kuai Liang be like almost like Noob Saibot. And I think that would have been a cool twist. Instead
that would have
of
been pretty
just
cool,
making him
'cause then
Scorpion, because it doesn't make a whole lot
Noob
of sense
Smoke.
for him to be Scorpion. Yeah, because then they could do Noob Smoke, and it would
That'd be
make
cool, yeah.
sense. Also, Scorpion, I don't know when this stopped being canon, but originally the yellow coloring for Scorpion was supposed to be a mock. Like, it was supposed to be a jab at the Lin Kuei because their main color is
Yeah.
blue. It was supposed to be like an insult to them because he wears their uniform, but yellow, basically calling them cowards. I don't know when that stopped being canon, but this basically just completely throws that out. Also, Bihan is supposed to be an extremely good fighter, and it's not really portrayed that way. He's certainly
No, he
good,
gets his ass kicked.
but he's definitely not who he was in the Midway timeline, where he could take on multiple gods and be fine. He's definitely not as strong as he used to.
It's really weird. Like, obviously, face of Mortal Kombat is Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Like everybody knows that. Like, they might not be the top dogs in the story, but they're not gonna be tossed around real easily. Like,
Yeah.
you see Sub-Zero kicking now General Xiao's ass, and he takes on. I think one of them takes on Shang Tsung or something. Or Quan Chi is one of the two. They
Both?
fight some top dogs. Yeah, they fight some top
Put them
dogs.
together. Shang Tsung with Quan Chi as a cameo, I believe.
And like they're up there like still. It's really weird seeing how they do it because like Scorpion's like, yeah, I'm gonna go start the Shiro Ryu, all this other stuff, and that happens. And then once all this stuff happens with like the souls and like they realize what Shang Tsung's doing, we kind of get to our third section, I would say. Like, this is about where the third section starts.
Well,
into
the third act starts with the Lin Kuei
and
attacking the temple, all that stuff. But
yeah, I guess.
then we go to the coup section, I suppose, where General Xiao is overthrowing, and it's pretty straightforward. Liu Kang goes to the palace, exposes everything, and that's basically that section of the game done and dusted.
Yeah, I mean that's really it. Like,
honestly, that section, it kind of just feels like a side quest, to be to be honest. I could have done without the coup section because it basically burns up 2 chapters. Nothing too crazy. Then going into the 12th chapter after the coup. I mean,
that's when you play as Melina.
yeah, you get to play as Melina, and that's where
Which
the
is very
big drop
interesting.
happens, where they reveal that the canon ending to Mortal Kombat 11 was not Liu Kang's ending in Aftermath. It was both endings, and Timekeeper Shang Tsung still exists, and he manipulated everyone. And I mean,
It's a whole multiversal thing.
I like
It's
how
weird.
he did it. I like the way that he manipulated everyone, because he basically shapeshifts into Kronika, and then he uses Damashi as a guise to trick Liu Kang's new era version of Shang Tsung into following him.
Yeah.
And Damashi was the alter ego for Onaga, and there's so many Onaga references and setups. But they've set up Onaga so many times in the NetherRealm era that honestly I'm not sure how much
It's
it
very
actually
upsetting.
means anything.
It is very upsetting.
So then we kind of just go into the final charge against
Basically
Tsung,
Armageddon.
and
Like a bigger Armageddon.
Yeah, it leads into a new Armageddon. And I'll be honest,
Multiversal
although
one.
the finale with the new Armageddon is cool, it still does not beat out the OG Armageddon.
I kind of agree. Like that was hype, but
Like-
that I feel like is also built up.
Yeah, but it's like
Yeah.
they literally pulled the like Smash Bros. Ultimate. Everyone is here, where they pulled every
Yeah, like,
character
basically.
out. It was like the OG Smash Ultimate.
And for those who don't know, in this part, like in the very last chapter, you get to choose whoever you want to be.
Yes, and I will say this is the best
And
choice
that
they
is-
could have made, because it means that characters who didn't get a chapter now have a chapter, and characters who
Yep.
either squandered theirs, and by squandered I mean kind of like how Kenshi and Kung Lao were not at full potential, they can come back
Mhm.
at full power now.
To show like all that. And so you're going up this tower. I'm talking about this a lot because this was like one of the like my favorite parts
Yes, this was
And you're-
probably the best part of
of
the story.
MK1. Like it was really good.
Yeah,
so
it
you're
was
running up,
definitely the climax.
and it's since it's a whole multiversal thing. Like you're seeing some basic stuff where it's like a girl version of the ninjas, like a reptile female version, stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
then
one of
you
the
get the
cooler
combo
things-
characters.
The combo characters. It's like General Shao and Johnny Cage mixed together. Baraka and Scorpion. Like they do some like really weird ones, but it's really cool because it's like, yeah, I guess it could be a thing. Like,
Yeah,
why
I mean-
not? Why couldn't it be a thing?
Yeah, I mean, you're going into the multiverse, basically anything's out there. It's boring, but one of my favorite battles during the Armageddon section is, and I think it's a guaranteed one because I played through the Armageddon section twice. So, I mean, you've played through it at least once, so you can confirm
I did.
about
I
if
did
you
twice.
saw it.
So,
Cyber Smoke.
no, I actually did not.
You
I
did
played it
not
through
get-
twice.
Okay, I got it during
No.
both of mine, so I thought that it was a guaranteed one because it was my last fight both times. Yeah, there's a cyberized Smoke he plays exactly the same as normal Smoke in this game,
Obviously, yeah.
but it's Cyber Smoke he basically looks like Triborg. I kind of wish that they would have
Yeah.
done the actual
Original,
the smoke design from Deception. Where his body was gas, but he had the pants and robotic parts for the
Yeah, that'd have been
mask and
cool.
stuff. That would have been cool. But I do like how they do have a modern Triborg design, because that means that they could do something with that in the future. But generally speaking, the Armageddon portion was really well done. I do think that the missed opportunity was the fact that Blaze was not present at all.
Yeah, the whole thing about Armageddon is Blaze.
Yeah, he was
and-
not even mentioned. The chapter is called
Not a
Armageddon,
thing.
and we're at the Temple of Argus. But Blaze not
And
even
he's-
mentioned.
I feel like it doesn't even matter too much, but
Which
after
I
you
suppose
win,
the assumption could be the fact that we're in Shang Tsung's new era for the final chapter, so
Yeah,
it's his
but-
thing, so why would he put Blaze on the temple? But then again, why would he have the temple at all?
exactly. But
So
because
it doesn't make sense either way.
after you beat him, Liu Kang's like, yeah, cool, we won, all this stuff. Everybody goes back to their world because that world's getting destroyed or whatever.
Yep. It lost its timekeeper, so
And-
it's collapsing in on itself.
Yeah, exactly. And so it spreads out. Well, then after credits, because nothing really happens after that. Literally, they go back to the Earth. They have some tea. Liu Kang's like, good job, gives a thumbs up, and it's like, yeah. But the after credits shows Havoc basically being like a big bad for some reason, and he has like his little posse, but it makes like it's honestly kind of makes no sense because like why is he such a big threat? Like,
Guys talking about, oh, we're about to bring an even bigger battle and unleash chaos on the multiverse.
yeah, like he's basically talking about like a multiversal war, like
Which I can
that Armageddon scene.
I doubt that he's the big bad going forward. It's probably just like he's trying to set things in motion to cause more stuff to happen.
Yeah, but like it's really weird just seeing him out of all people. Like they could have done, they really could have done basic again and been like, yeah, let's have it beat him Shao again, or Shao Kahn, have him try and come back as Shao Kahn.
And so I guess to wrap up the story, it should be mentioned the final boss is the Deadly Alliance, and although it makes sense with the way they did the story, I would say it's a pretty underwhelming fight, and it's probably the easiest Mortal Kombat boss that we've had in a long time.
It is very simple. Like
it is an extremely easy fight.
You sit there and knock around Shang Tsung like he's a bitch.
Yeah, Shao Kahn from MK9, he is not.
Yeah, like I feel like everybody knows that though. Like Shao Kahn, MK9, crazy. Shinnok wasn't terrible.
I mean, his monster form had like the chest blast, which
the
was
chest
pretty,
and he would just spam it.
Yeah, that was pretty. But yeah, overall, I would say the story was pretty good. There is one major flaw that I would say it has in terms of like gameplay reasons, and that is you earn no coins and no XP. You don't get character XP, cameo XP, or profile XP while you're playing the story mode. You don't get any achievement progress other than 50% achievement, or 50% story and 100% story. Those are the only achievements you get.
Yeah, and then you unlock Havoc. You unlock Havoc, which is, like I said, really weird. Out of all characters to unlock, you unlock Havoc.
Yeah, I figured that it would be whenever you beat him in the story, he would unlock. But it's like, whenever you finish the campaign, which just feels strange. It seems
Havoc is seen throughout the entire game. Almost like
yeah, and every time that we see him, he gets his ass beat.
Yeah, it is very weird, and so it kind of is underwhelming in that like area. But so honestly, now I think it's time for honestly just like the characters themselves, the roster, and one of the newer feature that MK1 is bringing in, the cameos.
Yes, the roster and cameos. The roster, probably the most important thing to any fighting game, is who you can fight as.
Roster.
It's okay. No, okay, it's pretty. I'd say it's pretty good because like they have a lot of like playing characters that you knew were gonna be in the game. But they also implemented characters that you probably wouldn't like. Be like, oh, really? They're gonna be like main characters that you can play as.
Yeah, I do like how they are now willing to embrace the 3D era, bringing back people like Ashra, people like Havoc, people like Nitara. Like it's nice to see that they're willing to dip their toes in, because before, I mean, we got Tanya, which I believe her first game was 4, which was kind of in between 3D and OG, I would say. So it's kind of, I wouldn't call it a 3D, but even though it was in 3D. But it's nice to see that they're willing to fully embrace the 3D era nowadays.
Yeah.
Instead of just like Tanya and Kenshi were really the only like ones who carried over.
And like you got all these characters, and they honestly like it's really weird playing as them. So something me and Austin both agree on is the character of Liu Kang as a playable character. How Liu Kang does not have his bicycle kick.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a meme of the bicycle kick, but it's iconic. They replace it instead with a spiral kick.
It's cool, but it's not.
It's not the bicycle. It's not the bicycle kick. That'd be like if they took out Raiden's like flying leap.
Yeah, like it's really weird. But he has a.
Or they
what
took
is it,
out
Dragon Kick?
Scorpion's spear.
What is it, the Dragon Kick for Liu Kang?
Yeah, which he's always had the Dragon Kick. So he still
The
has
Dragon
one of
Kick-
his like he still has one of his 2 iconic kicks, but it's like
It's pretty cool.
it sucks that they removed one of them and kept the other. I would have liked to have seen both stick around because there's not really a reason to get rid of the bicycle kick.
Yeah, no, like not at all.
But overall, I
Uh,
would say that the roster's pretty good. There's a few thinkers, I would say. I would probably... I would be fine if Reiko was out.
I feel like it's kind of nice having Reiko in just because usually Reiko and Shao Kahn are kind of compare a lot. But in this, they kind of made him like
Yeah, but he's just a jobber.
He really is honestly like a simp for Shao Kahn. They dress almost the same. They look almost the same.
Yeah, because he's
And-
Shao Kahn's right-hand man in this game. I could have done
Just
without him,
really
though.
weird.
Other than him, though, I mean, Nitara's
Everybody
a
else is
pretty
pretty
iffy pick.
don't think she
But
was-
I feel like
she
she
was
brings a lot of
cool.
diversity in because we finally get... Like, she's such an oddball. And we haven't really had a character like her since, well, old Nitara from the old games. Like, giant wings, vampire, like, it's pretty unique. I would also say that Lee May's kind of a stinker. She does some interesting things, but generally, her character's kind of underwhelming overall, which she was in the old games, she is in the new game. She has some
I would
cool
say-
moves, but I feel like they probably could have used her slot for someone more interesting.
I think one thing that's honestly kind of cool though is, and this kind of ties back to the story, which I apologize to, but honestly, it's catching my head. The fact that Melina kind of outshines Kitana in this one.
Yeah, no,
is seen
Melina
lot
gets a
more.
chapter. Kitana, I don't believe gets a chapter.
And Melina's at the end of the game is the Empress.
Kitana's definitely
so-
backseating.
Yeah, and it's crazy to see because usually it's the other way around, you know, like.
Yeah, I
Melina's
mean,
the
I'm okay with the
monster, so we
change.
kinda have the actual sisters.
I'm okay with it. But that also stems from the fact that I don't particularly care for either character that much.
They're not my favorites. Yeah, I agree. But
Yeah.
it's still something new.
But overall, I
like,
would say the
character.
roster is pretty solid.
It's a pretty good standard roster.
Yeah.
But since we gotta talk about that roster, we gotta talk about the cameo roster.
Yes.
and-
cameos.
It's really weird seeing some of these people as cameos and not as actual playables. My main one, especially, is Sonya. I feel like
See,
for
I am
Mortal Kombat,
completely fine with
Sonya
it.
is. I wouldn't say I'm like not fine, but it's just weird thing compared to her not being in the story.
So
And
the
honestly, I'm
reason
kinda-
is
yeah,
there is no special forces.
then not yet. That's
There's
another thing,
no
yeah.
special forces. And if you look at the main roster, there's not a single special forces character on it.
Yep. And
They
I'm
are
okay
only
with it. It's just
cameos.
weird seeing.
I am completely okay with that because a lot of people complained in all the previous games that we're using too many slots on special forces when they are the least interesting characters, and I have to agree. Special forces characters are not very interesting.
They are very plain. Yeah. Darius is weird to see. I'm not. I don't know. I don't remember too much from Darius. I just
So
remember him back
he-
in.
He was from Deception, and he came from
Yes,
Order
I
Realm.
remember that.
He wasn't really that interesting of a character, and he wasn't really that popular, but I believe, was the one leading the rebellion in Order Realm. So it would have been cool to see a little bit more of him. I believe in the story mode, he's working with Havoc. Is kind of weird, but at the same time, it kind of makes sense. Honestly, I feel like overall, the cameos are pretty good. I will complain,
they're
though,
pretty okay.
that there's not very many of them. For such a large, touted feature, it is severely lacking, and that there is way less cameos than there probably should be.
Especially the fact that the base character should have just been cameos.
Yeah, in the story mode, they make most of the main roster cameos, but in any other mode, like, you just can't do it. And it doesn't make sense. Because they already have it programmed. So why not just let us play with it?
Especially since they have, like, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Kung Lao. Like, why these three who are also base players?
Yes, and I like how you bring them up, because if you also include Shujinko and Motaro, you have 5 characters who start locked. Meaning that you have to level up your profile to level 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25. 5 per character, and you don't get to choose them. It honestly just feels strange, especially since if you play through the story mode, you're going to get no XP, so you could play the game for 6-7 hours just going through the campaign and still be level 1, and you're still going to be lacking 5 cameo characters.
Yep. And so, like, you're kind of slacking in that field, and so it's kind of weird seeing it like that, because, like, I want to know for later. You might think I'm touching on this too early, but it's gonna bother me. For DLC characters, how is it gonna work for them? Are they just gonna be base, or are they gonna be?
It has been
both?
confirmed that there will be DLC cameo fighters. They just have not been revealed yet, as of the recording of this.
That is really weird. They should have done where the base players are also cameos.
There have been leaked cameo DLC that's going to be part of the fighter pass, but nothing official has been stated about who they will be, so we're not going to touch on those.
Yeah, it's just really weird.
But overall, I would say the cameos are pretty well done. I like the feature. I think that they could use a slight buff in terms of the speed of summoning them. But other than that, I would say that they generally work pretty well. Some of them seem a lot better than others, but
some of them
I like them.
We personally like. Austin likes playing as having Cyrax as a cameo.
Yeah,
just
I like
for his
Cyrax.
fatality.
Yeah, he's got the best. He's got the best one.
I like my boy Scorpion. He's got some cool little, like, small things.
Yeah, I like.
Each cameo character's got some cool stuff.
Kung Lao's pretty cool.
Basically all of them.
My biggest
if you really think about
disappointment with the game is Shujinko being on the cameo roster and not the main roster.
And how,
very upsetting.
He honestly, like, maybe I'm just not playing him right. I played his cameo a little, and it's not up there for me. It's not one of my favorites. Like, it was kind of disappointing.
Yes, it's very dependent upon who you're fighting, because just like in Deception, he steals the enemy's moves.
That is true. That is very true. It's just weird. I don't really care for his.
But we touched on it. So I guess we should roll into the DLC. So we'll start with the pre-order character, Shang Tsung.
Dude,
this makes no sense.
It literally does not. Because
you play as him in the story mode. He's a fully finished fighter. You're locking an entire character behind a pre-order, which is just kind of scummy. So it's either like, cough up a couple bucks, or pre-order our game before you know it's good.
Yeah, and so it's kind of dumb, because, like, they do it a lot with, like, usually it's like Shao Kahn won't be the final boss. Okay, Shao Kahn will be your pre-order. Goro isn't gonna be anywhere really in there. Then Goro's gonna be your, like, pre-order. Like, that's kind of how it is. Like, it would have been really weird if you did not unlock Shinnok.
Yeah, now, I would say that the Goro one wasn't as bad because he's not in the story at all. Or
that's my whole point. That's my whole point.
That one's okay, but it is kind of dumb because it's a day 1 character. So we're talking day 1 DLC, so stuff that is ready in the game on launch, but you gotta cough up an extra couple bucks, which is just dumb. But yeah, you literally play as Shang Tsung in the story mode. It just feels like it's a cash grab.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that goes straight into the fact of Quan Chi and Ermac in the story mode with a full moveset.
DLC characters.
But they're DLC characters, so even if you buy the Fighter Pass day 1, you still will not have those characters because they have not released yet. Despite the fact they seem to be fully functioning in the story mode. Which
They have
maybe
full
there's like
movesets,
under the
they're
hood
both-
stuff that's not ready. Maybe.
It's weird because they're both cameos too.
Yes, they both function as cameos and as main fighters. Though it is strange that they are just completely omitted and are locked behind DLC, especially since Quan Chi is half of the final boss.
Like, Quan Chi is a big portion of the story,
And Ermac is a essential character in the story during the third
because
act.
of Jiren or Jared.
Jared.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
So it
it's
it
just
feels scummy, and that they're just trying to wring money out of people.
Now we got to talk about.
We'll do the last MK character
Other-
before we go into the crossovers. The last DLC for the first fighter pass that was revealed is Takeda, which
I forgot about him. I'm not
it is
gonna lie.
it is very cool to see him come back. I'm excited, but because of the other characters, honestly, I'll probably pass.
I forgot Takeda was gonna be in this. I'm not gonna lie, but it's gonna be. It's weird because we saw him, Cassie, and all basically the MKX people
Yeah, the
in the
combat
in the
kids.
story and in chapter 15. There's
They
a scene
appear.
where
They do
literally
not
all
fight
get wiped
though,
out.
so it is.
They all get wiped
It is
out.
pretty likely that Takeda is not finished, and he's still being worked on, which makes sense because it's DLC. So unlike Ermac and Quan Chi, who are in the story mode and have full movesets, Takeda has an appearance.
And it's very small, very
It's
small.
it's
like,
yeah, it's very small. His DLC appearance looks different, and obviously, since he's just cutscenes in Chapter 15, he doesn't have a moveset yet. We don't know quite how he's going to play. He does look cool, though.
I do like his design. Yeah.
But I would say that he's weighed down just by the fact that a third of the fighter pass is characters who we should already have for free.
Now can we talk about him?
Yes, now
Because
we'll
this
go into the crossover characters,
And
starting with
and
well,
I think we talk about Peacemaker. I think
yeah,
I think we should
we'll
talk
do
about
Peacemaker first.
first.
Yeah, I
We'll-
was
we'll
thinking
save
of
the
it, I
other
couldn't
two
remember the
for in a
name.
second.
Yeah, so
Peacemaker, pretty cool.
I-
I think it's a cool addition for the fact of we knew we were gonna probably get.
There was going to be a DC character. We already
DC,
knew that
yeah.
going in.
We knew that was gonna be a thing.
So I would say overall, yeah, it's a decent enough pick, because I would honestly, I think keep your superheroes in Injustice crossovers.
But you know
So
what?
overall,
like,
it's
what
pretty
other
good.
shit.
Plus, it kind of made sense that we wouldn't be getting Aaron Black in this game, so having Peacemaker kind of fill the role makes sense.
Good fair point. Yeah.
Okay, Mason, let's talk about him.
Dude, it is so dumb. So, okay. No offense to Omni-Man or Homeland. Both are cool characters. Both have amazing shows. Like, we can both agree on that.
Yeah, they are both. Now they are both extremely
this-
hype characters, but there's a
They're
fatal
cool.
flaw with them, and it is we don't need both
They're
of
the
them.
same person. They're literally the same person.
They are
Like, they're,
both representing evil Supermen.
like, I think Homelander has heat vision, and I think Omni-Man doesn't. And
Omni-Man
even then, I
has-
don't even know if that's.
Doesn't?
So then, even that, yeah. See, exactly. Like that's my
Does he?
point. Like it. I don't think in the show it doesn't show up. In the comics it might have, but I don't think he has heat vision. I'm not gonna lie. But like, you don't need both of them. That's just gonna take up a DLC spot that
No,
we could
he does
given
not
to
have laser
anybody
eyes.
else. Okay, so yeah, I didn't think so. So like, it takes up a spot, and you can obviously make them play differently.
Yes,
but at
and
the end of the
they've-
day, they're
the
basically
developers
the
have
same
confirmed
character.
they will play differently. But how
But like
differently?
still, they are basically the exact same person.
Yeah, I mean
That's
they're
why
both
so many people
representing the
compare
same
the boys
thing.
to Invincible. That's why there's so many comparisons. That's why that's a huge thing. And so it's
Yeah,
one
at
or
the end
the
of the day,
other,
they are
they
both
go to work.
evil super. Evil Superman is how you Bruce break them down. That easy.
and
And so I
it's-
feel
it's
like it would have
pretty
made more
disappointing.
sense save those both for Injustice 3. Now, to be fair, they're probably like, oh, they're bloody characters. We want to throw them in Mortal Kombat so they can do their gory stuff. But I feel like thematically it would just make sense to just make Injustice a bit more darker.
Yeah.
And then just have them fit in there, because that's literally what Injustice is. What is Superman was evil. So overall, they are hype characters, and it's cool to see them in, but
yeah, like both
I feel like
characters, like
it's
we both like them as characters. They're well designed characters.
But personally,
really cool.
I'm not excited to see them both in the game. I feel like if they could have
should've chosen
thrown
one
one of them in this game and then one of them for Injustice, and that would have worked better.
And it would, like, a lot of fans from one or the other would have probably been upset until Injustice 3 came out. Like, they still might be upset because, like you said, the whole goriness
they
of Mortal
won't get to
Kombat
do their
compared to Injustice.
bloody, gory stuff, but
still, like, you're getting these characters in this in the games and universes and stuff, and it's so cool. Like,
overall, I
I
would
feel
say
like,
the DLC's pretty mid, and I'm personally going to pass on it.
especially since I'm pretty sure it's like $40. Like,
Yeah, I believe the entire pass is $40, which is almost the price of an entire game.
like, that's crazy. Like, you sit there and spend $40 to get
You get six characters, and I think the leak said like 5 cameo characters.
Oh, really? So if you get 5 cameo characters, then I feel like it's somewhat boosted up, but we haven't seen anything on that. Like, we
Yeah,
don't
they
know.
haven't
as
they
of,
haven't
as of right
officially
now,
stated who they are,
as of this recording, we do not know anything.
and I don't even
about
think
the
it
cameos.
lists them in the fighter pass description.
Yeah, so we do not know anything about the cameos. So basically, this is just based off the characters you actually get to play as. And I think it's pretty low. Like, Peacemaker's really cool.
Yeah, I mean it's.
Kid is pretty
I
cool.
wouldn't say it's awful, but I feel like there's definitely, like, you could cut half of it out and it would still, like, the Quan Chi and Ermac should not be in it at all. They should already be in the game. And then Homelander and Omni-Man, I feel like they're going to fill the same, like, position. Yeah, one, like, Homelander's probably going to be a range base because of his laser vision, and Omni-Man's probably going to be more of a brawler, like, melee fighter. But overall, I would say the DLC pretty mid, at least for Fighter Pass 1.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. They could have done, because honestly, I feel like they're gonna do stuff with like Shinnok at some point, and I really don't want them to. I think that's a character they probably will try and bring in.
Yeah, I also feel like I think that, I mean, I know that like the crossover characters rake in the money. They're generally bring in more revenue. But I would like to see more Mortal Kombat characters inside of Mortal Kombat.
Especially the 3D-era ones, like the ones that we rarely
I mean, I'd be
seen.
fine with any of the characters. Just like, because it's the DLC, we're getting 6 characters, and half of it is crossover. I feel like that should be more of like a 4 MK to 2 crossover per pack.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, I feel like we're getting too much crossover. But,
And
yeah, I mean,
to a
there's-
point, like, later on, we're gonna run out of crossover characters that are gonna fit in the game. Like, they're just gonna add in crossover characters that people, and it's not gonna make sense. Like,
Yeah.
just because, like, you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. There's a difference. But I think off of that kind of takes us off the roster and cameos. Also,
Yeah.
anything else you want to bring up?
No, I think overall the base roster pretty decent. The cameo is good. DLC kind of mid, but for the actual roster itself, the customization is
Ooh, that is pretty
honestly,
good.
I would say the customization is not great. Each character gets 4 different things in the customization menu, which is their gear. So each character has a specific piece of gear that can be swapped, such as the ninja's masks, Liu Kang's bracers, Kung Lao's hat. Generally, they're not anything crazy. They don't affect gameplay. They're purely cosmetic, which is good.
Yeah,
They
not
also
know what
they also get
Injustice
palettes.
2.
They also get the palettes, which is their colors, and the alts run through the palettes. So any alternate costumes will just be separate palettes. Overall, it's alright, but I feel like there's a severe lack because right now, on launch, you have their base skin, and some characters have one alternate skin, and that's basically it. And I don't even think the entire cast gets an alternate on launch, which is kind of insane. Because
Yeah.
a pretty normal thing that characters will have a standard outfit and an alternate outfit on launch. And I feel like there's a severe lack of classic costumes. We don't have a classic costume for any character on the roster.
And they're not really.
I feel like there's a big issue with that, because it just feels like they shipped a little too early without fleshing that stuff out.
Like, I feel like there's just not. I kind of like it because it's not crazy amounts to where you're not going to be able to unlock everything. But, like, you know, in Mortal. Or I remember mainly in Injustice 2, the fact you can sit there and customize, like, a bunch of stuff, like
Yeah, you
the
customize
weapons,
pants,
the mask,
your weapon, your headpiece, and your torso piece.
like, that's crazy. Like,
So it's like there were 4 things to customize on there. But outside of gear and palettes, you also can select taunts.
which is pretty funny.
I
Very,
mean,
very basic.
yeah, I mean, changing your taunts, nothing too crazy there. And then your finishers, which, I mean, yeah, you have finishers. Not really much to customize there.
Yeah, so you just unlock them. You just learn. to
Yeah,
get
the
'em.
only reason they're in the customized menus because they're unlockable.
Like you get the brutalities mainly. That you don't even really get too many like fatalities.
Yeah,
Like,
but yeah, that's generally the roster and their customization pieces. So I think we're good to roll into the bonus content that the game has to offer post-story and outside of just normal 1v1s.
Game modes.
and I think the thing we should talk about first with that is
I think the
just
shrine.
the very basic thing. I was gonna say the towers. Every Mortal Kombat's had it. It came back. Cool. Now we go into the shrines.
Yeah, the towers, they function exactly the same as they did in X and 9, which is much better than they are in 11, because the Towers of Time are dumb. But anyway,
Yeah,
the shrine.
they really are.
The shrine is our crypt replacement, and I hate it.
It is not
I hate
good.
it.
It is very.
It is, the shrine is, you enter the shrine, and then you throw 1,000 coins in, and you get an item, and that's it. There's no longer any kind of exploration, no world to see. Like, I would even be okay if it was like MK9's crypt,
MK9 was really good. I really like that.
where, yeah, you're just like walking through a graveyard. I'd be okay with that. It's just now, it feels hollow and lifeless. Like, it feels like they just couldn't have been bothered. They were like, yeah, just give us 1,000 coins and here's your item. You don't need to explore. Which is weird because MK11 had the best crypt we've ever had.
Other than the fact it killed off characters, but we're not gonna talk about that.
And well, I'm just talking about the actual like world of it and like walking around it and
I
exploring
agree.
is the best we've ever had. And it honestly kind of had me hyped for like a Shaolin Monks remake or sequel because of the way the gameplay with it flowed, where it was a third-person like action game essentially, where you could explore around. And then we went from that to the shrine where you hit a button and then
That's
you
really it.
then
That's
you
all-
go back to the
You
next.
wait on this dragon to spit fire, which you literally can't
It
even
takes
skip.
fucking forever. It should be
Yeah,
instant.
it
It
is-
needs to be instant.
It is a super.
Because if you go in
like,
with, because you only do 1,000 at a time, you can't spend more than 1,000. So if you go in with 25,000, you're going to have to sit there, wait for the animation to go 25 times,
25
and
times.
you're going to be there a while.
You're gonna be there for just a good couple of minutes, just sitting there watching this dragon burn the thing, and then you get an item.
So shrine,
like,
I hate it.
It's
2 out
pretty
of
dumb.
10. Actually,
Yeah, basically,
1 out of 10. Yeah, fuck that. thing.
Like very,
It's awful.
like very dumb. They could have done something way better for it.
Okay, so now the big thing that this game was hyping, the big one,
And it's
invasions.
they're okay.
Yeah, they're
I would say
all right.
they're really cool for an idea of making it to where you have something else to do after you complete the story, instead of just doing the towers and then be like, okay, well, I'm done.
Yeah.
And
When
you're
you
someone
first
that's really
load it,
big into
it's
online
cool.
fights.
But like it starts to drag pretty quick.
Yeah, like there's a whole thing with it where each invasion has a season for it. So
Yeah,
each
so this
season-
is a seasonal game, just like most games these days. No battle pass though, which is good.
it's just like, so this season, it's pretty cool. I'm only touching on it for this season to kind of explain the invasion. It gives you like a slight story to it, to why like this invasion's happening. So
Yeah,
there's,
the
like,
invasion gets a
scorpion,
little
stuff like that.
story. The areas are probably unique to it, so whatever the next season is and the seasons after, there'll probably be an entirely new invasion mode built up, new story, new costumes and stuff.
Because like you unlock these, or you get these coins that you can basically spend on seasonal merch, and they're really not hard to get the coins. It's actually
Yeah, but I
pretty
would also
easy
say
to
that the
sit there if
seasonal
you
merch
play
is also
Invasion.
not amazing. So every character gets a costume, and that's, yeah, that's it.
Like they're okay. Like, so it works for some. Like right now, it's literally Scorpion's thing. So Scorpion's costume looks pretty okay.
Yeah, they're all red and
Uh,
yellow, and some characters just do not look good in
Like,
red
Liu
and yellow.
Kang's looks pretty good. Shang Tsung has one. It's like an orange with it.
Yeah, it just
Uh,
honestly,
just, like, a
it's
few
it's pretty
characters like
iffy. When they get to the more unique seasons, because
Then
if
it'll
it
definitely
works
work a lot
like
better.
seasons from 11 had some really interesting ones, like the Quan Chi season, where they gave characters a Quan Chi skin, or the Devora season, where they gave several characters Devora-esque skins, where they became like monstrous bug creatures. If they start getting more unique with them, cool. Which, them doing a super simple one for season 1 makes sense because they had to put it out on day 1. So hopefully the next seasons will be more interesting, but this one's pretty basic. Yeah, evil Scorpion from the multiverse. You just go through each world, going onto tiles, and you do fight
just
after
Hanzo.
fight after fight after fight. Occasionally do a tower. You get a special
Towers
item
are-
that is most of the time. I mean, there's different ones you can get, so some of them are good, some are... There's a level system, so as you progress through and do more fights, you'll get XP, level up, get better stats. But overall, I would say the invasions, although a good idea, I would say that they need more development and more to flesh them out.
One thing we also talked about together is the fact of the tiles. The tiles are they're not bad, but it would have
Yeah,
been a lot better
the
to actually give a
structure-
free roam.
I would describe the structure like a board game, where you go from tile to tile.
You have like
If
an
you could
ambush, you
freely
find
explore
shops.
it, similar to Deception's Conquest or even Armageddon's Conquest, where it's more linear since they're trying to build a structure and a story to it. Any of those conquest modes would function much better and be more fun, I think, because then they can actually like hide things in places instead of like, I believe there's a secret once you finish the tutorial in the technically it's the first area if you say the tutorial's area 0. The first
Yeah.
area, you go to a tile and they're like, secret, hint, blow up the earth, or something like that. And so you have to do a specific fatality to cause the secret. But it's like, you got a hint, but they also can't just be like, okay, well, this tile's the one where you have to blow up the earth. Because people finding that would have to literally go to every tile and try every fatality. Or brutality. So they have to give hints, but because they're giving hints, it's not really a secret anymore, is it?
Yeah. And then speaking of secrets, the secret fights. They bring back this whole thing of being like, oh, secret fights, like, you know, big thing, like Reptile being a secret fight, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be in vain to Reptile, or Jade, or
Like
Chameleon.
stuff like that. And they are not interesting. They are nothing really.
Yeah,
just, like,
they're random. So it's
They're an
not
extra
like
fight.
it's not like you have to like do a secret thing and then go to a secret area and like find them. No, just every once in a while you'll just get a secret battle that'll pop up. Every once in a while, whenever you're walking, you'll get ambushed. And
it's not like it's anybody important. It's just
generally, yeah, it's not anything super crazy interesting.
it's usually just a character that you know. It's just like
So
a lot. It's weird because the invasion is mainly like, so it'll be like Kung Lao, but it'll be Shaolin student. It won't be Kung Lao.
Yeah, it doesn't use any of their actual names, which is interesting, I guess.
It's weird how they did it. Like they could, like, because they don't really change too much about him. Like if they would have been like Shaolin student and used Kung Lao and then made him wear like no hat with like Shaolin like a uniform, like stuff like that, it would have made so much more sense. But
yeah, I feel like it honestly would have made more sense if they used more generic looking enemies like they did for Baraka and Johnny Cage's chapters. Use generic type enemies and then use the actual characters on the roster for the mini bosses and boss fights. That would have made more sense.
Like it's just it's really cool. It's fun to try, I would say.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting play, but I wouldn't marathon it because it does get pretty tamey after a while.
Like it's kind of different from the fact of, you know, if you do a tower, you have to go, you're basically going from fight to fight, and
you're essentially playing the Towers of Time without doing Towers of Time.
Yeah, like
because there's the modifiers, there's consumables, there's all that stuff.
And it's just like, for the most part. Oh, by the way, you also get to level up your character.
I already mentioned that.
No, but did you mention the fact that when you level up, you get points?
Yes.
You did?
I mean, I didn't bring up the points, but I said that you could level up in your like stats go up.
Yeah, you get certain stats, and well, I bring it up because for me personally, I've been playing and I've been just mainly putting it into like my attack and my defense. There's like 5 things you can put into.
Yeah, there's definitely ways to metagame it.
And you literally, if you do it right, it makes it to where basically the bots don't do any damage to you really, and you just tank hits. And so basically, like, the only reason to play it is to get the points to do both the shrine and get the seasonal items and stuff like that.
You also level up very quickly. So if you're trying to level up your character or your cameo or your profile to a certain level, the best bet is to avoid the towers because it's pretty slow, and just go for invasions, because invasion battles are a single round, whereas the towers are 2 rounds, just like normal MK.
It depends. Some of them are 2, but that's like special
some of them
events.
are 2, but generally, if they're not attached to a tower and they're not spawning multiple enemies, it'll be a single round.
Yeah, but it's a very basic mode to play.
I would say the invasions are good, but they could definitely use some improvement.
Yeah, and like once you get done with that, that's
Mortal Kombat 1.
That's Mortal Kombat 1. Yeah, that's really it. There's
generally I would describe Mortal Kombat 1 as a good game that's lacking in content.
Yeah, there's a lot of positives about it, but like there's small things that they could have fixed that would have made this game like
I would say that
out there games.
Because they raised the price from $60 to, I believe it was $70.
Yeah. And it's
I feel like for the price, you're not. If you're really into fighters, I guess, you know, you'll get the playtime out of it, but I would say for the amount of content in it, it's not worth the price tag. My personal opinion.
Like if you're a big Mortal Kombat fan, then yes, I
definitely you'll definitely pick it up because you'll already own it by this point.
It is a great game.
Yeah, if you're just into fighters,
it's a great game. If
it's
you're
a good
Mortal
fighting
Kombat
game.
fan, stuff like that.
The combat's pretty solid, but it's just there's a lack of content. It has the same amount of characters as a normal Mortal Kombat game on launch, but I feel like there could have been more, which they easily could have added 2 extra characters in Quan Chi and Ermac. Shang
And
Tsung should have
in
been
all
a base
honesty,
character,
Shang Tsung. He should have been the one that
and
sat there
they
and
could have made someone else a pre-order.
they should have made him Havoc's position. He should have been the one that
Yeah, he should have been the
got
unlockable.
unlocked with this story. But overall, not a bad thing.
It's definitely not a bad game. It is definitely good. I would say just at the current, like as of launch, it is just a bit lacking in content. It definitely leaves a bit to be desired.
If you're willing to spend that little bit of extra money, I think it's a good game to play. It is a recommended game if you're willing to spend that extra bit of money. Just be like, if you're a big Mortal Kombat fan, it's gonna kind of be like to the fact of it's gonna be like missing stuff that you would probably want to see in it, especially for like
the crypt.
people. Yeah. But if you're a person that hasn't really played any Mortal Kombat too much, and you're just like, I don't really care about the story, I don't really care about the characters, then
I would still
generally
say it's not worth it, because that's what most of it is building up to, is returning things from older games and the story. So that's not something that you're
Yeah, but I feel like
interested
it's
in. It's generally not going to be worth it. I would
If
say
you're wanting to get
if
into
you're getting it for the gameplay is solid.
yeah.
But you'll
it's-
have to be prepared for it being a bit samey, because there's not a lot of variation. There's not a lot of extra modes. All there is story mode, towers, invasions, and that's it. Outside of like the basic 1v1s, like online.
Like online stuff.
Which online, really all there is for online is standard and King of the Hill. If you can't even go into a private match and do training with a friend because it's labeled as coming soon. It feels like the game was rushed out and it probably could have used an extra month or two in the oven. That's my opinion. It feels like it's lacking in some areas. There's a lot of things that seem very obvious that should have been in the game, like tag team mode, raid bosses, and the stuff's just not there. Unless you're just
But
really
also,
into fighting games.
this is mine and Austin's opinions. This is our thoughts on the game. Please let us know, like, if y'all think any other things, and like what you think we missed that we should have talked about, stuff like that. These are just things that like we thought we would like to mention and talk about, and stuff like that. But we really like hearing like what other people think and stuff. But yeah. Austin, you got anything else to say?
Yeah, Mortal Kombat 1's pretty mid.
Shut the fuck
Yeah.
up.
Nah, it's good.